Oh, hey guys, Tim Lerch here. Just thought I would make a quick tip video today about a particular subject that I find is creates a little difficulty for some of us. The subject is integrating our right hand technique with our left hand fingerings. Now, it's not so much about the voicings, it's particularly about the fingerings, which, as you probably know, a voicing can have many different fingerings depending on how we choose to align our fingers on the fingerboard. So when you're playing with your fingers, you can simplify a lot of your fingerings without having to worry about playing unwanted notes. And I'll give you an example. The biggest example that I can think of is this D minor 7th chord right here. It's spelled 1, flat 7, flat 3, and 5, and it's something that almost everybody learns right away early on in whatever kind of jazz harmony book you might be learning. Now, the problem with this fingering, nothing wrong with the voicing, but the problem with the fingering is that it uses all 4 of your fingers on their tips. And for solo guitar or any kind of legato style harmony, that creates some problems because you don't have any options for grabbing other notes or for sustaining a note while you move another note. I suppose there are a few options where you can play that, and that would be one of the positives of this fingering. Let me tell you why this fingering sort of emerged, is that if you're playing with a pick and strumming across, it's a good fingering because you need to mute the unwanted strings with the edges of your fingers, and you want to strum across and not have any notes that you don't want in the chord. And it's a little bit of an older style of teaching chords that is based more on pick style or strumming style. Now, if you're doing that style, then this is a perfectly good fingering. If you want to get this sort of legato moving melodies against chord style, then I would recommend simplifying a voicing like this to just a straight bar and one finger to get those notes. It's easier to grab in the heat of the moment, and it also allows for more melodic movement, whether it be inner voices, bass notes, or melodies of all kinds. I guess you could say melodies in all ranges. So there's that. I will often play that chord this way as well with a doubled third, because I just like to hear the moving voices. There's a number of different chords that might fall into this category of too many fingers to hold it down. For instance, another minor 7th chord, let's say A minor 7, a lot of people play it this way, and that's fine for strumming. I play it that way as well. Some people even play it this way, which I don't understand at all, but it's the same problem. Too many fingers involved and not enough flexibility. Some people play it this way. That's a little bit funny because it kind of cripples your upper fingers. The easiest and most efficient way, if you're playing fingerstyle, is to just bar straight across. And you get all access to all sorts of stuff above the chord while still being able to let it ring. There's a lot of chords that where the fingering can be simplified. This chord here could be simplified to that. So instead of using all 4, you use 3. It makes the major 7th a little more tricky to get, but that's a sacrifice. This chord, I might play it this way, just to leave one finger up so that I can do something with it. Another chord is, for instance, this A13. Many people will play it like this, because that's how they learned it in a book long ago. And then you're really stuck with not being able to do much. You can do certain things, but if you're here, really get a lot more melodic movement while the chord sustains. Okay. So, streamline your fingering for the purposes of making it more efficient with fingerstyle playing. If you're playing with a pick, use the old way. They work just fine for that. Okay? Next thing, sustaining a note in one chord while you move the rest of the notes to another chord. And I'll show you what I mean by that. You hear the G ringing up there? Right, so I play. It's E minor 7 to A7, but the G note is being held. And I can't do that if I do this. I can't necessarily do it if I do this either. It's just because where I'm going is on that side of the fingering. So we want to be able to develop the ability to hold a note or two notes and then have fingers left over to be able to move melodies in the bass or in the middle, or just change a whole chord while a single note rings up above. Here's an example. I'll play something in the key of D and see if I can sustain notes over two chords. You can see sometimes I even do a little backwards fingering. I might have this and then go like that, where this finger, which we wouldn't normally think of as hitting the bass note, goes backwards over that way. So little things like this, we want to utilize them when we can, okay? In order to get the voices to swim more in a legato fashion rather than having everything being like a bunch of buttons being turned on and off when we play. Okay. The last thing I'm going to talk about is another efficiency measure of using one finger to stop two notes, but it's got a twist. So we know about double stops. Those are all good. And we probably all do those types of things in one way or another. There's one, though, which I think is kind of specialized. And what I'm doing here is I'm playing an A minor 7 chord in second inversion, and the fifth is in the bass, so I have a root right above it. It's a perfect fourth. So rather than playing all my fingers, I use just one to capture both of those bottom two notes. It's a little tricky. You can't collapse your finger or it'll interrupt the G string. So you notice my knuckle is still elevated, if you can see that. What I do is I plant my finger off with a little bit of an angle, smack dab in between those two notes, and the edge of my finger is getting both notes on either side. The one edge over here is getting that note, the other edge is getting that note. It takes a while to develop this. It allows for one extra finger to grab another note, and it just makes the whole thing easier. For me, it's just easier, probably because I'm used to it. I notice that transcribers get a little crazy when I do this because they see one finger doing one thing and they don't necessarily always hear that there's 4 pitches in there. You can also play, a doubled 7th or just that. All kinds of possibilities, but it's just good to know. Another A minor chord, which is a third inversion A minor chord, is particularly helpful to play this. Over here, it's very easy. Over here, it's a little bit of a problem. So I double stop the bottom 2 with a tip double stop, leaves another finger available, and also, if you try and play this, you got to cram your fingers in there a lot, and I prefer not to. The last one I'm going to say, or there's 2 more actually, say B minor 7 flat 5, or any minor 7 flat 5 along the chromatic continuum there. I use a double stop of tip double stop in the middle of this chord. Another one that drives transcribers crazy. They look at that and it looks like a diminished 7th chord, but if you use your ear, you're going to find out that it's minor 7 flat 5, as opposed to a little subtle difference, right? But it just, again, it releases this finger from duty, and it also makes the whole thing a little easier to grab. The final thing that I use it for is if I'm playing, let's say a major 7th chord. I'll play both of the 5th and the root down below, or make it minor. It's very, very pretty and lush down there. Okay, and so that's another way of using the tip double stop. The last thing I'm going to say is that I often use my little finger using 5 notes in a chord, or at least playing a low part of the chord and then using other notes above to have the cumulative effect of 5. Another thing that drives transcribers crazy because they think of 3 and 4 note chords, but not usually 5 note chords. And it's very handy. A little trick I do is I grow a little bit of fingernail on the end of my finger. That note is then a little bit, maybe 2 inches or so, closer to the bridge, and it's got a nail on it. So that note really stands out. Little trick. 5 fingers. If you're trying to play many of my arrangements, you're going to notice there's a lot of 5 note chords because I just love the lushness. A lot of times the top note's going to move, and so I don't really think of it as having impact on the chord quality so much as I see it as a melody note. And then I don't have to worry about whether I'm doubling a note in the chord momentarily while I play a passage or any of that kind of stuff. But I use my little finger a lot for that. Okay, I just wanted to share this to all my followers, and I hope you're doing well, and keep playing that beautiful, lush harmony.